majority of our audience who we're talking to are the family members of the people that they care for. So it's, where are they? They're on their way to work, or they're just relaxing after dinner, and it's finding those sort of the right time, the right channel. The podcast felt right.
Welcome to the Family Carers podcast, where we help mums, dads, aunts, uncles, brothers, sisters, friends, anyone caring for a family member or loved one to feel supported in their role and connected to their community. This week, we're joined by Caroline Sommer, founder of Care Connect Marketing. Caroline and I met at a local networking breakfast in Ferndown in 2023, and I knew immediately that she was the right person to help us at Bluebird Care to connect to our community. We've worked closely together for a year now, and she and her team have played a critical role in helping me to use our knowledge and expertise to add value to our local community and make critical support services more accessible. Today we really want to talk about the vision behind the podcast that you're listening to today, what we've got planned for you over the coming months, and why we really feel this is an important platform and message to get out to our local community. So let's start by welcoming you, Caroline. It's interesting to have you on this side of the camera.
Yes, thank you.
Usually you're on the other side. So maybe let's just start, for anybody that doesn't know you, hasn't heard of you, just to introduce yourself. I know you're very active in the local community, so there's a lot of organisations that will have heard of you, but perhaps not our listeners. So tell our listeners about yourself.
Okay, thank you. So Care Connect Marketing, we're a digital marketing agency. We help organisations, businesses get online and become more visible, educate their audience.
For us, that was really important because we've got a lot of information and a real rich network of other organisations that we work collaboratively with. And we felt it was really important for the local residents, the local community that really need to access the support services that are out there to hear about all this brilliant stuff that's going on across the BCP area.
Absolutely. And I think that's what we noticed sort of through getting out there in the community for our own business and just connecting with other businesses. The fact that people do need to network face to face, especially in the care industry. Everybody is so busy with their day-to-day running of the businesses. Just being able to talk to them outside of that environment. So attending networks, attending events, and then just being able to talk to them when they've got a moment.
And for us, you're bridging that kind of gap between what we're doing day to day and then making sure that we can reach the people that really need to know about what's happening.
Yes.
Because when we know from our experience that when people are caring for a loved one, you don't have the time to go out and research and look for. You need the information to arrive in a really accessible format so that you can then know what you need to access at that, what's relevant to you at that point, and that changes so quickly as well. So the podcast really felt like a great format to make that information really accessible for our listeners, for those members of the community, because you can listen at any time. You can listen whilst you're doing other things. You can listen while you're cooking, while you're driving. And it's a way of feeling connected. And I think for me, that's what I've noticed most with our Bluebird Care customers and their family members, is that people feel so alone. And just to know that you're not alone and that there's so many other people out there who are having those same struggles, challenges, feelings, and that normalises those conversations and also helps to highlight what there is out there by way of support.
Yes, I think you've hit upon it. It's like, why a podcast? Or why not just more content or more social media? It's just like we are totally immersed in all of this noise for and
people don't always have time to sit down and read a booklet or...
No, that's right. And having a video podcast, it makes us real. We're more personable. We can share some anecdotes, some stories, and whether you're just chilling out in the evening or you're in the car going to work, our audience are majority of our audience who we're talking to are the family members of the people that they care for. So it's, where are they? They're on their way to work, or they're just relaxing after dinner, and it's finding those sort of the right time, the right channel. The podcast felt right.
Or they're providing care all day, every day. They don't have a moment to themselves, but still they can plug in whilst they're doing all those day-to-day tasks.
Exactly.
Yeah, really. So we're really hoping that this resonates with so many people and that it can be shared amongst the community.
Yes.
And although it's really, we wanted to make it very local because of all the wonderful support we've got in the BCP area, some of what we're talking about will be relevant wherever you're living in the country, or sometimes even in the world. So it's about making those connections so as people don't feel alone.
That's right. And I think something you said, it's like people just need to hear it from other people. Most of us at some point are going to be caring for a relative or a friend or a close one. It's going to happen. And then having that information available. And then the nice thing with the podcast is and the community itself, we've been able to invite visitors, guests on that are involved in so many different aspects of care. Whether it is, and from the BCP in terms of the age-friendly community and what's happening there, to guests that are talking about organising fun days out, or activities, on a rainy day. It's covering so many aspects. By including a variety of different guests on the podcast, we can cover a number of topics. The first series, we've decided it's an introduction. It might be your first time stepping into the role of a carer. Gosh, I've been in that position, and where do you start? There's not one point really to start. You can search online, and it's just then bringing all those pieces together to form the podcast. So stepping into the role of a family carer. Emotional support for yourself. I mean, it's a new role. It's stressful. You're dealing with different situations. The education that is actually available for somebody caring for a loved one. Maybe they're suffering from dementia or Parkinson's. That's new to me. What do I do? Where do I start? So it's about raising awareness for those topics. Yeah.
And we very much wanted to make as much of this information accessible to as many people as possible. So we have also created ebooks, downloadable ebooks. We also have printed copies. And each of those booklets covers specific topics that will be relevant to family carers. And these podcasts, we wanted to sort of bring those to life a bit more.
Yes,
so the podcast episodes relate to what we're covering in those downloadable ebooks. So I'd encourage anybody who's listening who is a family carer or who knows a family carer to follow the link that we'll put in the show notes, to download the ebook, to make use of all the resources we've got, because we're trying to pull everything together. So as people do have, it can't quite be a one-stop shop, but we're hoping to be able to pull the resources together so people have got one place they can go and access what might be relevant for them at that point.
Exactly. I think it's starting with the website, drilling down. If you're local, just knock on the door. We've got plenty of these that you can take away. And they've got links at the end of each section. We're talking about the topic. We're introducing it. We're letting you know that you're not alone. Then providing signposts. Some have already they're going to be our visitors. They've signed up. But it's the practical support as well, isn't it? It's really knowing how to start to understand how to navigate the journey as a family carer, because dynamics change, life changes, daily activities everything changes. Yes.
So sometimes it's just having those tips, and also that permission that people seem to need to prioritise their own well-being as well, and the importance of that.
That's a tough one.
And we've got some guests that will be coming up in this series to really help people to understand not just how to do that, but why it's really important to do that.
Yes, setting boundaries, understanding that you've got your life, you're going to have kids, other people that depend on you, but equally your time. You need your time.
Yeah.
Because if you aren't fit and in your best state, then you're not going to be able to help the ones you really want to help.
Absolutely. So yeah, again, I'd encourage people to go and download the ebook. Caroline and I both also age-friendly ambassadors. So you mentioned, Caroline, there very briefly, the Age-Friendly Communities Initiative with the BCP Council. We're both very involved with that. And actually, I think that some of the learnings that we've taken away from that has really helped to inform how we can best make the information accessible to people through the podcast and through the ebook. So one of our early guests who we can look forward to welcoming is Heather Olive. Yes. So she's the Age Friendly Communities Coordinator from BCP Council. And she is the kind of the passion and the drive behind the Age Friendly Communities project. And she's going to be able to tell our listeners all about the initiatives that are going on across the Bournemouth Christchurch and Poole areas. But also give a bit of background on age-friendly communities. So I'm really looking forward to being able to chat with her, and for our listeners to be able to hear all of the wonderful things that are going on around the area, the local area. So I know we've got a few other guests lined up, so we'll just pick a couple because...
Okay, so some of the other guests that we've got coming up, we've got Ollie Lester, who is a health and wellness coach, who's going to share some tips on really taking care of yourself as well.
Yeah, and I know that he also works within the NHS network, and will also be able to tell our listeners about how you can access some of those things through your local GP surgery, which would be great.
Perfect, fantastic. Okay, who else have we got? We've got Dr. Beverly Lee from Forest Home Hospice. I believe she's a consultant in palliative care. Talking a little bit more around that topic.
And I think hopefully the conversations around what's commonly termed as end-of-life care, but what the hospice can do and can offer by way of support for people, and the situations that can be relevant in. And I think it's about demystifying hospice care is what I'm really hoping we'll be able to share with our listeners. Yeah.
And then I think towards the end of the series, we've got Sarah Rampton from In Jolly Good Company. Yeah. I think this is one definitely to watch. She's an amazing person, doing a fantastic job, building events and...
Just doing fun stuff.
Fun stuff.
Yeah, fun
yes,
stuff. And we all need a bit more fun stuff, don't we? So I'm looking forward to chatting to her as well. So lots lined up for our listeners. Yeah. Lots of guests coming on through the series. So really encourage people to listen, to subscribe to the podcast, so as they get notifications when we've got a new episode that is available. And to sign up to our newsletter so they don't miss anything that's going on. We're going to put all of the links in the show notes for this introductory episode, so people know how to find us and how to keep up to date with what we're doing.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so thanks very much, Caroline.
Thank you, Melanie,
for coming on and being on this side of the camera. I think it's really important that people understand, why we're doing this and what we're hoping to achieve. Exactly. And we'd love to hear people's feedback. If there are guests that they'd particularly like to hear from, if there are topics people would particularly find useful, then let us know, because we're doing this to try and facilitate information sharing across the local area. So we're interested to know, what people feel they need.
Fantastic.
Amazing. Thank you for listening to the Family Carer podcast, and a huge thanks to Caroline for joining me today to introduce the podcast and what we're hoping to achieve. So remember to subscribe and share this with anybody who you think needs to hear it. And just a quirky random fact to finish with. When Caroline and I first met at the networking breakfast, we discovered through conversation that she grew up in the house that I now live in, which was a very strange turn of events. I already knew that I wanted to work with Caroline, but I think that sealed the deal, really. So, a bit of a strange
jaw-dropping.
Yeah, wasn't it just?
Yes.
Wasn't it just? So I'll leave you with that little anecdote to finish. Thank you.